Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the sacrifices that you have to make to be a singer. So, unfortunate but true, and just part of the great, wonderful adventure of it all. So, the first thing you have to give up is a lot of socializing and chatting in loud places. This is a very personal one for me. Especially in my early 20s, I loved going out, having a beer with friends, being in loud places, and I'm a very sort of excitable, friendly, affectionate, drunk person. So I would I'd just talk and talk and talk and talk, and then my voice would be totally shot the next day at uni. And that was something that I personally had to really reconcile myself with. And I realized that I could socialize over a cup of tea in a small group in a quieter place. And I would still get that important, wonderful social stimulation, but I wasn't ruining my voice. And I know that a lot of you are going to be going through the same thing, especially if you're early on in your journey and, at a stage in your life where you like to do that sort of thing. So that is something you will have to give up in order to be a singer. A lot of singers have to give up alcohol entirely. For me, I don't really drink. I love a drink very occasionally, but my general modus operandi is not to drink at all because it does affect my singing a lot. There are some people who can drink a few standard drinks a day. Doesn't matter. Doesn't make a difference to them. That's great. That's fine for them. But it's something that we all individually have to find for ourselves, because remember, alcohol does dehydrate you, and that it can be problematic for singing. So that could be something that you need to reconcile with if you want to stay in this profession. My second point is that this is not a job or a lifestyle that you can turn off when you clock off after work, kind of thing. Music stays spinning around in our head. We think about what happened in the rehearsal. We obviously need to retain all of the blocking and all of the information that we learnt that day, because we're going to go out and perform it the next day or in a week's time, or we come back in a couple of months' time to revisit the production. So it can be very hard to let that stuff go. And you do not have the benefit of being able to be away from work when you are physically away from work. You cannot necessarily be mentally away from work. Some exceptions, I would say. There are some contracts where it's easier to do that. Like if you have a chorus contract, you go into work for 3 hours or 6 hours a day, and then you just leave the score at the opera house and you go home. There are some contracts where that's possible, but it is very hard to find as a singer. So if that's something that you can't reconcile with, definitely give that a lot of thought. Okay, my next point is the demands of the profession are extremely time consuming and extremely financially consuming. If you're having lessons once a week, that's €100 a week. That's €400 extra a month that you're paying just to keep up your profession. It's tax deductible, that's great. But you are going to spend the most enormous amount of money on travel and singing lessons and everything else related to being a singer. So just keep that in mind. It costs a lot more to be a singer than it does to be in most other professions. And that does unfortunately preclude a lot of people from doing it. So find a way. I've spoken about this in other videos. Find a great way to support yourself that's kind of remote or can travel with you, and find donors where possible as well. There are lots of people who want to support the arts, and we love you. If you're watching, thank you so much. But it's a really hard thing, and you can't have you won't hit a lot of the financial milestones that your friends will be hitting. The idea is that you spend all of this money, and then you hit a point in your career where you start earning huge money, and then you can start aggressively investing and owning property and all the other stuff you want to do with your life. But not everyone gets there. So you have to be prepared to give an enormous financial sacrifice and sort of comfort level sacrifice as well. And it can be a gamble for a lot of people. So just keep that in mind. Okay. My next point is not everyone is going to enjoy being partnered with a traveling singer. But you will find the right person for you, and you shouldn't let anyone hold you back. Being a traveling singer or a traveling musician has a lot of tricks, a lot of tricky things involved in it, and some partners won't be able to cope with that. But if you're with someone who's asking you to choose, if your career's going well and you're with someone who's unreasonably asking you to choose between them and your career, then that's probably not a great person for you to be with anyway. But on the other hand, if you love this person and they need you and you have children or other, responsibilities, then it can be very tricky to be a traveling singer and doing that at the same time. So that's something you need to prepare yourself for. It's not impossible at all. There are plenty of singers who do it, who are parents. It can be done. It can absolutely be done. There is no way that nothing is impossible, is what I'm trying to say. But it is not going to be super easy. So just keep that in mind. Another point that I had is that there's a lot of secrecy in this profession, and that is very difficult for a lot of people to handle. So, you might have a contract, but you're embargoed about talking about that contract because of whatever reason. Opera houses like to keep their casts very secret. They like to keep a lot of their production stuff very secret. And that can be that can not sit morally so well with some people. So if that's something that you think would really get under your skin, have a big think about that as well. And my last point is that you are giving up the right to have a stable profession as well in pretty much every single case. Some cases not so much, but mostly, it's not going to be stable. But I would argue, it's the end of 2024 when I'm filming this, I would argue that actually no one in the world has a stable profession anymore. It's very hard to find. I'm a millennial, and everyone in my friendship group and everyone around my age is finding that regardless of their field. So that's almost a moot point, but that's kind of a positive in a way. So yes, anyway, have a really good think about all of these things. And, if you decide that you can't do this profession because of these reasons or some of these reasons, that's totally fine. That doesn't mean that the time you've spent and the money you've spent and the, wonderful muscle growth that you've had and emotional and mental growth you've had as a singer has been wasted. It's never wasted. It's incredible and it's wonderful, and you will be able to be a musician in your own terms anyway. Okay? So go practice and see you in the next one.